One name gone cold, one path went thin. Keep your eyes open, we're going in.
On March 1st, 2025, a 63-year-old woman named Delilah White Dress disappeared from Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and more than a year later she is still missing. There's no publicly documented explanation for what happened to her, no detailed account of where she was headed, no publicly released timeline explaining her final known moments, and no answer to the most important question of all. Where is Delilah White Dress? What makes this case especially difficult is that the public record is surprisingly quiet. We know Delilah's name, we know where she was last known to be, we know what she looked like, and we know that multiple law enforcement agencies are still asking for information. But so much of the story remains unknown. And sometimes those unanswered questions are where a missing person case begins. Before we talk about the mystery, I want to talk about Delilah. Because Delilah White Dress was not a case file. She was a daughter, a mother, a grandmother, and a member of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. Delilah was born on August 5th, 1961. So she shares a birthday with my late father. Not the year, but the date. She was 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighed approximately 170 pounds. She had brown eyes and black and gray hair. And there is one detail that could be especially important to anyone who may have seen her. Delilah often used a black wheelchair. That detail matters because when someone disappears, the smallest physical detail can sometimes be the thing that allows a stranger to recognize them. And Delilah's family isn't simply waiting for an answer. They're waiting for her to come home. There is also something worth remembering about Delilah's family. A 2024 obituary for her son, Christopher John White Dress, identifies Delilah as his mother. The same obituary describes Christopher as someone who loved to joke, laugh, and spend time with his grandchildren. I mention that because it gives us a glimpse into the family behind the missing person poster. These are not just names on a database. These are people who have already experienced loss, and now they're living with another kind of uncertainty. Now let's go back to March of 2025. According to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Delilah's missing date is listed as March 1st, 2025. But the South Dakota Missing Persons Clearinghouse lists her as missing since March 5th. That difference is important to point out because when we tell a missing persons story, we need to separate what is officially documented from what we simply don't know. The federal case record identifies March 1st as the missing date. The state database lists March 5th. But neither public record gives us a detailed explanation of what happened between those dates. And that is one of the first major unanswered questions in this case. Here's what we can say with confidence. Delilah White Dress was last known to be in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. The federal case remains open, and the investigation involves 3 agencies: the Oglala Sioux Tribal Police, the FBI, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs Missing and Murdered Unit. The BIA identifies Savannah Peterson as the agent associated with the case. So this is not an abandoned case. There are investigators still seeking information, but the public record doesn't tell us everything investigators may know, and that's an important distinction. Investigators have also released information about what Delilah may have been wearing. She was last seen wearing black sweatpants and tennis shoes, and she often, again, used a black wheelchair. Those details may seem ordinary, but in a missing person investigation, ordinary details can become extremely important. Imagine seeing a woman in a black wheelchair somewhere in the Pine Ridge area. Maybe you didn't know her name. Maybe you didn't realize she was missing. Maybe you saw her in a parking lot, near a residence, along a roadway, or somewhere else, and thought nothing of it. Months later, you might suddenly see her photograph, and something clicks. That's why these cases continue to need public attention. Because the person who has the missing piece of information may not even realize they have it. Okay. This is where Delilah's case becomes especially difficult, because there are questions, a lot of them. When exactly was Delilah last seen? Who was the last person known to have seen her? Was she at a residence? Was she somewhere in the community? Was she traveling somewhere? Was she alone? Did she leave voluntarily? Was someone else with her? Was a vehicle involved? Did anyone report seeing her after the date she was reported missing? And perhaps most importantly, has anyone seen Delilah since March of 2025 without realizing who they were seeing? We don't have public answers to those questions, and I want to be very clear about that. That does not mean investigators don't have answers. It means those answers have not been publicly documented in the sources available to me. There's a difference. And because there is so little publicly available information, it's tempting to fill in those blanks ourselves, but we shouldn't. We don't know that Delilah was harmed. We don't know that she left voluntarily. We don't know that another person was involved. We don't know that she traveled outside Pine Ridge, and we don't know what happened to her. Those are not conclusions we can make from the information currently available. And what we do know is much simpler. A woman disappeared. Her last known location was Pine Ridge. Her case remains open, and investigators are still seeking information. Delilah was 63 years old when she disappeared. Today she would be 65, and that means every month that passes changes the picture. People move, memories fade, locations change, and potential witnesses may not realize that something they saw months ago could matter. That's why sharing an image can be so important. Not because social media solves every case, but because sometimes recognition happens in the most unexpected way. Someone sees a photograph, someone remembers a face, someone remembers a lady in a wheelchair, someone remembers a woman they saw somewhere and never thought twice about, and suddenly something that seems insignificant becomes important. The Bureau of Indian Affairs currently lists Delilah's case as open. The Oglala Sioux Tribal Police, the FBI, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs Missing and Murdered Unit are seeking information that could help locate her. And that means this case still has somewhere to go. There is still information that could come forward. There is still someone who may know something. And there is still a family waiting for answers. If you know something about Delilah White Dress's disappearance, even if you're not sure that what you know is important, investigators are asking you to come forward. The Bureau of Indian Affairs Missing and Murdered Unit says tips can be submitted by texting 847-411. You can also call 833-560-2065 or email OGS_MMU, all those letters are in caps, at BIA.gov. All those letters are in small print. They'll be in the description box below this video, don't worry. You don't have to know exactly what happened. You only need to share what you know. There is something unsettling about Delilah's case, not because we know what happened, but because we don't. There is a beginning, March of 2025. There is a last known location, Pine Ridge, South Dakota. There is a photograph, there is a description, there are agencies investigating, and there is an open case. But between the last moment Delilah was known to be there and wherever she is now, there is a gap. And somewhere inside that gap may be the answer. Maybe someone knows where Delilah went. Maybe someone saw something they didn't understand at the time. Maybe someone has information they have never reported, or maybe the answer is still waiting to be discovered. We simply don't know. And that's why Delilah's name needs to remain visible. Again, Delilah White Dress is more than a missing person entry. She's a woman who is part of a family, a mother, a grandmother, a member of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, and someone whose absence has left questions that still haven't been answered. We may not know what happened to Delilah, but we can make sure people don't stop looking for her. If you live in South Dakota, if you've spent time in the Pine Ridge area, or if Delilah's face looks familiar to you for any reason, take another look. Because sometimes the person who can solve a case isn't a detective. It's an ordinary person who remembers something. And that's why we're here. I'm asking you to subscribe to Voices Left Behind. This channel is dedicated to people whose stories can easily disappear beneath the headlines. People who deserve to be remembered. People whose family deserves answers. And people whose names still need to be spoken. Because being forgotten should never be the end of someone's story. And Delilah White Dress should never be forgotten.
If you know a thing, say it now. One small